Hello, everyone. My name is Carolina, and I'm here representing Arkbound Foundation, a charity who is working to widen access to literature and improve diversity within publishing. And today we have with us Dr. Ester Barinaga, who has written a chapter for an upcoming Arkbound book called Climate Adaptation, coming out this October. Dr. Ester Barinaga is a professor of social entrepreneurship at Lund University in Sweden and also at Copenhagen Business School in Denmark. She works primarily in the areas of social innovation and social entrepreneurship, with a particular emphasis on initiatives addressing ethnic marginalization and stigmatization in our societies. Apart from her extensive academic career, Dr. Esther founded in 2010 the nonprofit organization Förorten Centrum, an initiative that uses the collective production of public art to change the stigmatized images of what are called immigrant suburbs of Stockholm. Welcome, Dr. Esther. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Carolina.
Yeah, I would like to start the interview by asking a little bit about your personal journey that led to your current work around these topics and ultimately to writing a chapter for this book.
So I have been working for a while on studying integration and segregation processes in Swedish cities, and while I was working about it, I realized that we as academics, we often write about things that happen and give yet another example, but our work, for better or worse, is not always read, or it doesn't always have an impact in those processes that we want to improve. So I changed completely my focus and my methods of study and realized from the position of academia, we can mobilize all the resources we have into actually catalyzing maybe some of the processes we would like to, or the integrative or the inclusive processes we would like to see. So that's when I started working more hands-on with the communities I was studying and more working with them. So that's when I founded Förorten Centrum and started exploring different tools and different methods to build from the bottom up more inclusive cities. So that's when I started with collective mural processes, but also that's how eventually I came across community currencies. And that was 5 years ago, while I was on a break in Spain, that I came across a group of citizens of all classes that had by themselves started a community currency. And what I saw were dynamics, social dynamics that were very different to the social dynamics that I saw outside those communities. So I thought I was going to explore more that kind of tool to build more inclusive and sustainable cities. Yeah.
Okay, so you open your chapter with a Chinese proverb, "The fish is the last to know water." So could you maybe explain how it relates to our vision of money as an asset, what it is and how it can be used?
Yeah. So maybe I have to rewind to where I was 6 years ago when I started to work, when I came across this community currency. I had been working in academia within a faculty of economics and organizational studies for almost, for over 15, 17 years. And yet I had never come across community currencies. And what I was learning from, as I got involved in this community currency in southern Spain, I was learning from them, from these citizens. Some of them had studies and others didn't have studies. I was learning from them many things that I hadn't learned in the books, that I was not reading in economics. And one of them is actually money. We very seldom stop to think about what money is. We take it as something we have or we don't have. We somehow relate and aware of it, but we somehow relate to money as a thing that you either have and can live well with, or don't have and have to work for, and and all that. And so that is the thinking that dominates how we relate to money. And what I saw in this group of people is that they were making money themselves. It's not something you have or you don't have, but the kind of monetary system that they had designed for themselves allowed them to have when they need it and to pay back their debts when they could. And so it was more a relation of obligation and rights that money visualized than something that you have and you don't have. It was money without the community didn't have any value. And so through those experiences, I realized, wow, how undiscussed what money is and how problematic that is, because unaware of it, it actually organizes our society. It organizes how work is remunerated. It organizes what kind of work is done and is done. It organizes who's paid and what for and how much and all that. And if we conceive money instead of as a thing that some people have the right to have and others don't, if we instead conceive it as a balance, as a spreadsheet recording what people have contributed to community and what people are in lack of contributing. It's more of as a way of visualizing relationships. The whole organization of society could be different. And this is what I saw in that community group. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but more or less, it actually made me aware how important money is for the actual organization of our societies. And this is at a key point in time when we are discussing and rethinking how our society is organized, how our economy is organized, because it's leading us to the unsustainable future that we have in front of us. And it is money that is organizing those kind of relationships. And if we rethink how money is and how it is designed, its internal design, we can redo those relationships and we can rethink how the economy works.
Okay, so this narrative of money that we have, what do you see as the main challenges or limitations that it creates for our society at this point?
Okay, so the limitations of our current monetary system, there are several. One of them is that we think of it as something we have or we don't have. And so it doesn't allow people to organize a collective itself, but we enter in a relationship of competition. It's either you who have it or me who have it. That's one thing. The other thing is that because it's something that we want to have, because we give value to money itself, instead of maybe what money can acquire or not, we save it. And this is a function that is needed. We need something in society that allows us to save to prepare for the future or whatnot. But the problem is that today we have a mono currency system. We have one currency in each country. And in some regions of the world, we have one currency for several countries, which is even worse. So one single currency has to fulfill all functions. And what we do is, okay, we're saving with that currency, which is the single one we have. And that means that if I'm saving, I'm not spending. If I'm not spending, somebody else is not able to earn it. If somebody else is not able to earn it, they have a tougher time putting food in their dinner table. You know, there are two contradictory functions of money that are fulfilled at the moment with one single currency. One is to save, which takes money out of circulation. The other one is we need it to spend as a medium of exchange, which puts it back into, you know, it needs to have it circulating. When in times of crisis, these functions, the contradiction of these functions comes to light very clearly, because people save in the small luxuries of life, in the small cafe you take in the morning, or in the, you know, and so you see at the beginning of each crisis, the bar in Spain, after the 2008 crisis, the over 3,000 bars just closed in Madrid alone during the first year, because people start saving in the cafetito, in the morning coffee break. So that's another problem of our current monetary system, that is monocurrency, and it tries to fulfill several contradictory functions with one single currency. The other is that the majority of our money is created by private banks in the process of extending loans. Up to, in the UK, where you're based, up to 97% of this money, of the total money circulating in the economy, was created by private banks pre-corona. This means, and banks create money, give loans, which are the source of money, the origin of money, give loans following their own profit considerations, right? So if they trust that you're going to be able to pay, or if they trust that your house is going to go up in value, or whatever, they give money. If they're hopeful about the economy, they grant you the loan. But if they're not hopeful about the economy, if for whatever reason you are of a different ethnic or group or whatever, for whatever reason they don't trust you, they don't give you the money. This means that they behave pro-cyclically. So they extend and create money when the economy is going good, because they believe that it's going to be able to go back, and they contract money when the economy is going bad, which is counter to what we need. So it's a pro-cyclical behavior that only increases and strengthens the booms and busts that we've been seeing recurring and actually increasing in dangers, or in how do you say, in how serious they are in the last decades. So this is a variety of problems with our current monetary system. And community currencies, I'm not going to address them all. It's not the silver bullet, but it is one solution to a particular set of problems of the monetary system. And one is the solution to the contradictory functions of money that I talked about. That's one. Another thing that they do, and they do it very well, is what they did with me. They teach us about money. They teach us about how the monetary system works. They push you to ask questions like, where is money coming from? Who is creating it today? How is it designed? On what basis is it created? How is it destroyed or withdrawn from circulation? Who has the power to create them? And why? And so it forces us to ask questions that I think that initiate an enormous pedagogic process that we need in society overall.
Thank you. So in the chapter, you go on from identifying problems with the current money system to talking about money as a commons, and even describing a new vision of commons as not being only a resource in itself. So what do you have to say to that older idea of a tragedy of the commons?
Okay, so in economics, the tragedy of the commons has been discussed traditionally as a problem of managing resources that everybody has access to. Public resources, if you want, or right. And Garrett Hardin, who actually initially wrote about this, said, well, there are two solutions to the problem of the commons. One is give ownership to a private individual, so private ownership, so that it would be in the interest of that private ownership individual to keep the quality of the commons, say it's the quality of a river or of a grazing field or a forest, right? Because it's in his or her interest to be well kept, he will keep it properly. So it is the private ownership and a market kind of organization of the economy. The other solution is give ownership to the state, who represents the public, and the state will put regulations and rules to actually access that commons and use that commons so that its quality will be kept. And this is how traditionally the tragedy of the commons has been addressed. But we have Elinor Ostrom, the first woman to win the Nobel Prize in 2009, who said, well, that may be what theory says, but if we travel around the world, the commons that are best managed are managed by communities, and there are other ways of governing the commons. And so what the chapter says is, look, we have, the economists have been thinking about the commons simply as the resource itself. And what we're doing, thanks to Elinor Ostrom, partly, but also thanks to a whole set of scholars within sociology and political sciences at the moment, from the Angelis to name just one, is that, well, the commons is not only the resource. What Garrett Harding was describing was an open access, free-for-all kind of resource. The commons is the resource, a community that cares, that manages it, that thinks about, and manages it so that sustainably, and a set of rules, norms that the community develops and adjusts to adapt to the changing conditions of the resource and the community. So that is the commons. And if we start looking at money as such, money is not just a thing that some have and don't have. It's not a resource that you can accumulate and spend when you individually want, but it's actually a technology, a socio-technical arrangement that organizes the economy. And the economy, it's all of us. It's not you, it's not yours, and it's not mine. We're making it all of us. Then money is a commons. It's a commons, it's a resource that, for its being at all, involves governance rules, how it is created, when it is created, who for it is created, how it is distributed, all that, and a community, which is the community of users. And if we start thinking, we believe, my co-authors and I, we believe that if we start thinking about money as a commons, then not only would we re-educate everybody and hopefully help us see the responsibility we all have, but also it will help us put demands on the people that today manage our money. Yeah.
Okay, that's a great way to lead into my next question, which would be what actions do you see as most urgent for us as citizens to help bring this vision of money as commons to reality?
Oof, that's a difficult question. Okay, I think there's several. I think we have to organize at several levels. In the UK, you have a positive money movement that is organizing. It's based in the UK, but it has chapters in other places around Europe. And that is one way. It's actually what they are asking. They're calling for a reform of the money system, but the national money system. And I think that's really needed. And it's one of the ways that we citizens can be involved, supporting that kind of reform movements. And they're organized so that it's possible to support it, even though you may be a layperson that are not economics, we don't have an economic background. But the other is getting involved in a community currency, learning about how these communities are designing their own monies and are managing them, experimenting maybe even with different forms of money, and seeing that if you design money in this way, it has these consequences for your community, and it may not be the best consequence, not the consequences that you want. But if you design money in this other way, and there are very many different designs, that's another thing that you learn when you get involved in community currencies, is that money can be designed internally in a very different way. So learning about this by experimenting, by getting involved in the discussions. There are very many discussions online and offline. So getting involved in starting community currencies that both teaches us, but also foment an economy of care with the community and group that you work with through the community currency. So it teaches us a different way of being in the world. So I think both ways of mobilizing around money could be a good way to start reforming money.
So in the spirit of learning from the ones that are already doing it, since you have come across a lot of examples of community currencies and groups delving into the matter, could you give maybe one or two examples of the most well thought out or more inspiring examples of these that you've come across?
Yeah, I think there's a group of currencies that are designed along mutual credit lines. So it's not a commodity. Money is seen as some sort of a spreadsheet, if you want, where money is created on the moment you and I agree on a trade. Money is created at the moment. And then in my account, it would say, if I buy from you, in my account, it would say, well, you, Esther, you have a minus 100. Say we started both with 0. The moment you and I agree on a trade, even if I have 0, I'll be able to pay to you. I can send you money and you'll get plus 100 and I'll get minus 100. And what it says is that I have a commitment that you have contributed to the community by providing a cake, say, and you have contributed to the well-being of the community and now have a cake for my children, but that I owe to the community the equivalent of 100, right? These are mutual credit currencies where money is not scarce, but is created the moment it's needed. But it also visualizes who has contributed how much to the community and who is still in a relationship of debt to the community. These currencies are really rethinking money and are really changing the way people relate to each other. That's one. Then there is, while these currencies have been, the mutual credit currencies have been tested independently, one of the challenges that within the movement is perceived is that we have heaps of bubbles, if you want, where they're using this currency, but there is a need maybe to actually enable trade between these bubbles, right? And so at the moment, Mats later is developing what he calls the Credit Commons Protocol to enable trade between currencies. He would be a great guy to talk to, I think. I think those are great examples, actually. Then there's a lot of experiments. There is a currency in the Canary Islands, which is experimenting with what I believe is the most interesting UB design, a universal basic income within a currency. I think that's not a cryptocurrency, but it's the one that I've seen that has the most interesting universal basic income design within its currency. But then there's a lot of experimentation, some better, some worse, within the crypto world, within other digital platforms, not necessarily crypto. I'm a bit concerned about the ideas that dominate that world. But that's another topic.
Okay, so one of my last questions, leading from this thought of what's inspiring at the moment. So what are your hopes for the future? And in particular, since we have the COP conference this November, what are your hopes for the COP? And also, what are you hoping that this book will achieve?
My hope, okay, you caught me on a week that I'm very, I guess like most of us who work with these issues, some days we feel very optimistic about where we're heading. We see a lot of young energy and mobilizing and dreaming not about becoming CEOs of IBM, but actually about mobilizing and starting up organizations from the bottom. And sometimes I'm very inspired by that. But other days, and I'm one of those weeks at the moment, would you see how the barriers are immense, how those in power don't want to learn and don't want really to experiment and so what I'm going to tell you is not what I hope, because I don't know where I am, where I think we're heading, but what I would like it to end is that I hope, I really would like this book to open up a discussion. That discussion is open already, but to generalize, to bring a discussion that is already going on and going strong in many circles, to normalize it so that it becomes part of the debate of the normal media. In the normal media at the moment, at least in Sweden, we hear about immigrants and we hear about criminals. We don't hear about the very many efforts that are going on the ground to save the planet, to build inclusive cities, to care for each other, to all this. And I hope the book normalizes this discussion so that nobody cannot just say, oh, I didn't know that was going on.
Okay, so final question is, if people could take just one message from this chapter, what would you like that message to be?
Okay. I believe that the most important message in that book chapter is the realization that if we really are serious about building a sustainable and inclusive future, we really need to redesign the monetary system. It doesn't matter that we introduce regulations about, bonuses capped for CEOs, or that we redesign the taxing system so that more is redistributed from the 1% to the 99%. No, we actually, those are palliative measures, add-ons that with time, as we've seen, get eroded and disappear. We need to redesign our monetary system, seriously. And the rest is just parches. And that's one lesson. And the other is that it sounds like a huge thing to do. That's something that only the experts and the politicians can do. But the other message in the book is that citizens are already doing it. So get involved, do it, learn about it, and do it.
Oh, I really like this proactive message to end with. Thank you so much for all that you've shared with us today. And to those watching, if you are curious to learn more, you can check the description for some of the most recent articles by Dr. Ester Barinaga. And also, if you are interested in the book itself, there's also a link, and you can even pre-order it at this point. So thank you again, Dr. Ester, for being here today with us.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you to the Arkbound Foundation for actually putting the book together. It's a lot of work that you're doing. Thank you very much. It's an important work too.
Thank you.